Hello guys, tonight, we drift into a different kind of dream, a dream stitched with smoke, jazz, and the soft glow of Parisian lanterns. Imagine it's the year 1923, the world still trembling from the Great War, but Paris. Paris is alive like a heartbeat. And tonight, you wake up not as yourself, but as someone entirely new, a young Bohemian woman in a tiny Montmartre apartment, the scent of rain drifting through an open window, the walls covered in paintings you barely remember making. Your hands smell faintly of turpentine and roses. Your thoughts feel heavy, slow, as though carried on a strange, sweet fog. Outside, the city hums. A saxophone wails somewhere down the street, a long, aching note that seems to pull at your chest. You sit up, blankets falling to your lap, and realize the floor around you is scattered with sketches, dancing girls, stars, silhouettes of strangers you might have met at cafes. On your nightstand lies a small glass vial wrapped in paper, the same pale amber substance your friends call la fée silencieuse, the silent fairy. Heroine. Once a medicine. Now a whisper running through the veins of artists, writers, dreamers. A promise of escape in a world still learning to breathe after the war. Your heart beats slowly as you rise. The dim morning light paints your skin gold, and for a moment, it feels like you're floating. Suspended between reality and the gentle, dangerous dream the whole city seems to be chasing. You hear laughter from the street below, clinking glasses, footsteps on cobblestone. Paris doesn't wait for anyone, not even the broken, the beautiful, or the lost. And now, in this strange new life, you're all free. You breathe in, and you feel it, the weight of a world rebuilding itself, the ache of artists searching for meaning, the quiet seduction of something soft and deadly. This is where your story begins, in a room washed in pale light, in a city that never sleeps, in a body that feels both familiar and foreign. A woman caught between creation and collapse, peace and oblivion, hope and the sweet, slow fog creeping through 1920s Paris. The morning unfolds slowly, like a ribbon unspooling across the rooftops of Montmartre. You step onto the tiny balcony of your apartment, barefoot, your hair loose around your shoulders, the cool stone kissing your skin. Below, Paris stretches out in soft shapes. Chimney stacks breathing little clouds, laundry fluttering between windows, the distant dome of Sacré-Cœur shimmering in the early sun. Everything feels dreamlike, as if painted in thin strokes of gold and gray. But beneath that beauty is something else, an undercurrent you can almost taste. The cafes are already awake, chairs scraping the pavement, waiters in white aprons lighting cigarettes as naturally as they breathe. You watch two artists arguing over a canvas, their voices sharp but playful, drifting upward in the warm air. A group of young Americans, expatriates still running from the memories of war, laugh loudly as they stumble out of a jazz club that hasn't slept since last night. Paris in the 1920s is a city with no clocks. Only rhythms. Only moods. Only escapes. You pull your shawl closer, feeling that familiar heaviness behind your ribs. A soft pressure, like the echo of a violin note fading too slowly. You know it well now. Everyone does. It's the weight that drives people into smoky bars, into poems scribbled at 3 a.m., into the tiny glass vials tucked inside velvet purses. It's a hunger for quiet, a craving for distance from the ghosts of trenches and bombed cities. The world survived the Great War, but many souls didn't. Paris became the place where people tried to forget. And forgetting came in many forms. Art, love, music, and the quiet amber dream inside your drawer. As you step back into your room, you notice your reflection in the cracked mirror. Your eyes still hold that soft duskiness, that bohemian allure your friends call the Montmartre glow. But behind the glow is something flickering, a question you can't quite form. A feeling that you're slipping between who you were and who the city wants you to be. You open the drawer and stare at the vial again. In the 1920s it's not a crime, not yet. Doctors prescribe it casually. Poets write odes to it. Musicians take it before they play. It's called inspiration by some, medicine by others, and salvation by those too tired to admit they're falling. You touch the glass gently. Cold. Smooth. Familiar. Outside, a car horn blares. A woman laughs. A jazz trumpet flings a bright, defiant note into the air. The world is calling, loud, vivid, alive. But another world, softer and slower, whispers inside that vial. And you stand between them, unsure which one you'll choose today. By noon, the streets of Montmartre begin to glow with that strange Parisian light, soft as smoke, warm as old brass. You wrap a faded scarf around your shoulders and step out into the world, letting the door swing shut behind you with a gentle sigh. The stone staircase curves downward, each step carrying you closer to the heartbeat of the city. The café at the corner, Le Chasseur de Rêves, the Dream Hunter, is already buzzing with life. It is the unofficial home of the lost and inspired. The walls are yellowed with years of smoke, the tables carved with initials of lovers, the air thick with the scent of roasted coffee and wet Paris streets. As you walk in, the room pauses just slightly, as if acknowledging your arrival. You're not a stranger here. You belong to this mosaic of misfits. At the back table sits Matthew, a painter with charcoal on his fingers and melancholy in his eyes. He lifts his gaze and studies you with that familiar, silent question, "Are you all right? Are you here?" For weeks now, he's watched you drift in and out of clarity, sometimes glowing with energy, sometimes dissolving into the quiet haze the city has learned not to judge. He gestures to the empty chair beside him, and you join him with a faint smile. Around you, voices rise like soft waves. A poet reads lines from his latest work, metaphors wrapped in cigarette smoke. Two American jazz musicians argue about rhythm and revolution. A woman with a feathered hat sketches the silhouettes of strangers passing outside. In the corner, someone speaks in hushed excitement about La Fée Silencieuse, the silent fairy, and how a single inhale made him hear colors. The heroine craze is everywhere. It flows through the cafés like an invisible river. Not loud, not violent, just constant. Gentle. Deceptive. Each user looks like a dreamer, a visionary, a philosopher touched by some impossible calm. But you know the truth, behind every slow smile, behind every half-finished painting, there's a shadow. A yearning. A tiny vial tucked into a pocket or purse, waiting to be opened. Matthew places a cup of dark coffee in front of you, his hand brushing yours for a moment, warm, steady, real. "You should paint today," he murmurs. "Before the evening takes you." You nod, though the heaviness inside you stirs again, like a tide pulling at your bones. It's always there, that tug, soft but insistent. The city's addiction is not dramatic like in future decades. It's romanticized, whispered, painted in gold and blue. A muse, they call it. A friend. A miracle for the wounded soul. You lift the cup to your lips. The bitterness anchors you for a moment. The room sharpens. The world feels alive. But from the street outside, you hear a soft, distant lull, the echo of a violin, the promise of the evening, the quiet call of the fairy in the vial. Paris is full of choices, but none come without a price. And as the day moves forward, you feel the weight of that choice gathering inside you, as gentle and dangerous as the city itself. By late afternoon, Paris begins its daily transformation. The sunlight slipping into amber, the cobblestones gleaming as though washed in honey. You leave the café, wrapped in the scent of coffee and charcoal, and wander toward the narrow streets that lead down to Pigalle. The city hums beneath your steps, every doorway hiding a story, every window glowing like a lantern guiding someone home, or guiding them astray. Your boots tap softly against the cobbled path, mixing with the distant sound of a piano drifting out of an open bar. The melody is slow, fragile, trembling like a memory that hasn't decided whether to stay or fade. You pause for a moment, letting the sounds wash over you, laughter, murmured conversations, the low hiss of someone lighting a cigarette. Paris breathes in colors. Even its silence has music in it. But within you, a subtle unease begins to rise, a flutter behind your ribs, a trembling under your skin. You've been without the vial since morning, and though the city around you is vibrant and shimmering, there is a whisper in your veins, quiet but constant, just a little. Just enough to soften the edges. You walk faster. Past a flower seller arranging pale roses. Past a bookshop where a poet stands in the doorway, reading to no one in particular. Past 3 girls in bright scarves dancing to a gramophone that skips every third beat. Life is everywhere, loud, messy, chaotic. And somehow, all of it makes the craving sharper. You reach your building just as the sun melts behind the rooftops. The stairwell smells of dust and old dreams. Your fingers tremble slightly on the railing as you climb, each step echoing softly in the tight space. By the time you reach your door, the city outside has turned blue, like a painting dipped in twilight. Inside, the room feels different, quieter, emptier, as though it's been waiting for you. The sketches on the floor look more chaotic now, the colors harsher, the lines desperate. You pick one up, a portrait of yourself drawn in hurried strokes, the eyes hollow, the mouth tired. You don't remember making it, but you know you did. Your breath shivers. The weight inside grows heavier. You open the drawer. The vial lies there, glittering in the dim light, as delicate and deadly as a teardrop. You touch it gently, and the cold glass sends a spark up your spine, relief, anticipation, guilt, desire. All twined together. Outside, a saxophone begins to play, slow, aching, seductive. Paris is welcoming the night. And in this hour, when shadows grow long and the city slips into its velvet blue, the line between art and escape becomes unbearably thin. You stand there, the vial in your hand, caught between the softness of evening and the softness of surrender, each promising a different kind of peace. And the night waits for your choice. Night settles across Paris like a soft velvet cloth, swallowing the rooftops and filling the narrow streets with silver shadows. You sit on the edge of your bed, the vial resting loosely between your fingers. A single candle flickers beside you, its flame trembling as though it already knows what comes next. The room is silent except for the faint creak of the old floorboards beneath your bare feet. Silence can be gentle, but tonight, it feels heavy, as though pressing against your lungs. You feel the craving tighten, not in loud ways, but in soft, persuasive murmurs, a quiet ache behind your ribs, a trembling in your hands, a dull fog settling around your thoughts. You tell yourself you don't need it. You tell yourself you are strong, that artists must feel everything, not float above it. But the city outside is alive and burning and beautiful, and inside you, everything feels dimmer, smaller, harder to hold. Your gaze falls to your easel. The painting from last night sits half-finished, a swirl of blues and whites that once felt like the beginning of something grand. Now it just looks tired. The lines are shaky. The colors muddy. You feel the sting of self-doubt flicker sharp and hot, and suddenly the quiet in your mind is gone. In its place is a rush of fears you've held at bay for too long. You're losing your talent. You're fading. You're not enough. It's in this moment, when creative hunger meets the weight of living, that the city's temptation becomes its most seductive. The heroine craze of 1920s Paris didn't capture people loudly. It captured them gently. Softly. It slipped into loneliness, into stress, into sleeplessness, into the cracks beneath beauty. You bring the vial closer. Just a small amount. A tiny relief. A breath of peace. That's what everyone tells themselves. That's how it begins. And how it continues. And how it consumes. Your heartbeat slows as you prepare the dose. The candle flickers against the glass, reflecting a tiny universe of golden light. You lift your sleeve, hesitating, but only for a second. The moment the warmth rushes through your veins, the fear dissolves. The room softens. The world relaxes. Your breath steadies. You lie back, feeling weightless, almost floating above your own body. The walls blur slightly, their edges melting into one another. The sketches on the floor seem to glow. Even the sound of distant jazz feels warmer, fuller, closer. This is how the city holds you, not with chaos, but with comfort. Not with promises of greatness, but with promises of rest. And as your thoughts drift into the golden haze, you don't notice how the minutes slip by, how your body grows heavy, or how the candle burns down to a quiet stump. What you do notice is the feeling. Soft as silk, sweet as sleep, calming as a mother's lullaby, and how desperately you've been needing it. But outside your window, Paris keeps moving, unaware that inside this single room, something within you has begun to unravel, softly, silently, beautifully, and dangerously. The next morning arrives not gently, but like a dull weight pressing against your eyelids. The sunlight pours through your thin curtains, but instead of warming you, it feels distant. As though the world outside belongs to someone else. Your mouth is dry. Your ends are cold. And the once familiar hum of Paris sounds strangely muffled, as if heard through a thick wall of cotton. You push yourself upright slowly, the room tilting for a heartbeat before settling. The empty vial lies on your nightstand, catching the morning light like a shard of amber. You stare at it with mixed emotions, comfort, guilt, longing. Not hatred, never hatred. The city has taught you that destruction rarely arrives as something monstrous. Sometimes it arrives wearing silk, whispering kindness. Outside your window, Montmartre begins to wake. A fruit seller calls out prices in a cheerful voice. A cat leaps onto a balcony railing. A young woman rushes down the street with paintbrushes sticking out of her coat pocket. Life continues with such ordinary beauty that it almost hurts. You try to step away from the night before, to scrub the heaviness from your mind. But the softness you felt is hard to forget. It clings to your thoughts, tempting you with the memory of stillness. Last night, the world was gentle. Today, it feels sharp. You tie your hair loosely and make your way outside, hoping the fresh air will clear your senses. The cafe is buzzing again, but this time, when you enter, everything feels too bright. Too loud. The laughter too sharp. The music too restless. You greet Matthew, and he studies your face with quiet concern. He doesn't ask, he never does, but his eyes say everything. You try to focus on the conversations around you. A dancer excitedly describes a new routine for the Moulin Rouge. A writer reads aloud a line he's certain will change literature forever. A trumpeter tests a new melody, bright and piercing. Paris is full of people chasing brilliance, and behind every attempt is a shadow they pretend not to see. You sip your coffee slowly, hands trembling just slightly. The warmth helps, but not enough. There is a tug at your spine, soft, familiar, unwelcome. A whisper in your blood reminding you how peaceful the world felt last night. A painter across the room lifts a sleeve just slightly, revealing the faintest bruise along the inner arm. Another woman rummages through her velvet purse with nervous fingers, pretending to look for lipstick when both of you know what she's truly checking for. And at the counter, a young journalist counts her coins, ready to buy, just a tiny bit, from the man who visits the cafe in the late afternoons. Paris wears its elegance proudly, but behind every velvet curtain is a quiet dependency, a collective exhale that no one wants to admit they need. As you leave the cafe, the streets look different, sharper corners, darker alleys, deeper contrasts between light and shadow. The beauty is still there, but now you see the cracks. The softness of the night has been replaced by something else, a tug, a craving, a quiet fear of how easily you could slip again. You clutch your shawl tighter and walk faster, not away from danger, but into the growing realization that the city's enchantment has woven itself into your veins, and it is not letting go lightly. That evening, as the sky turns the color of bruised lavender and the rooftops glow with the last gold of the setting sun, you find yourself wandering toward the steps of Sacré-Cœur. It's a place where people come to breathe. Lovers holding hands, travelers sketching the skyline, musicians playing soft melodies that drift into the cooling air like prayers. You climb slowly, your breath light and uneven, your thoughts tangled in the delicate thread of wanting and fearing. When you reach the top, Paris stretches beneath you like a sea of lights, warm, trembling, alive. For a moment, the view steadies your heartbeat. The city looks so peaceful from here, its temptations small, its dangers invisible. You sit on the edge of the stone steps, hugging your knees to your chest, and let the dusk settle around you like a soft blanket. A few minutes later, someone sits beside you. It's Clara, the young journalist who often writes in the cafe, the one who buys, just a tiny bit, to help her through sleepless nights. But tonight, something is different about her. Her eyes are clear. Her hands steady. She rests her notebook on her lap and exhales slowly, as though releasing something heavy from her chest. I stopped, she says quietly, not looking at you. 3 days now. You blink, surprised. 3 days feels like an impossible eternity. She smiles gently, almost shyly. It's terrible, she adds. It hurts everywhere. I can't think straight. But I can see again. Really see. Her gaze drifts over Paris, shimmering in the fading light. The city looks different when you're not floating above it. Her words settle inside you like a small, warm flame. You want to touch it. You want to believe it. But the ache in your body whispers otherwise. You say nothing. But Clara sees the truth in your silence. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a tiny glass vial, nearly identical to yours. Only this one is empty. She holds it between her fingers for a moment, the sunset catching its edges, turning it into a glowing tear. Then without ceremony, without drama, she stands, and throws it down the hill. It shatters somewhere far below, a faint tinkle swallowed by the noise of the city. Clara sits again, breath trembling but proud. It doesn't fix everything, she whispers. But it's a start. You swallow hard. The craving pulses through you like a dull echo, but Clara's courage feels contagious, or at least familiar. The night air is cool, scented with roasted chestnuts from a nearby vendor. A violinist begins playing a slow, aching melody on the corner. The world feels painfully beautiful. For the first time, you wonder what Paris might look like without the haze, without the sweet fog, without the drift. What your art might become. What you might become. It's just a thought, a fragile, trembling thought. But all rebellions, especially the ones of the heart, begin quietly. The night falls fast in Montmartre, as if someone has gently pulled a curtain over the world. You walk home from Sacré-Cœur slowly, Clara's words echoing in your mind like a second heartbeat. The city glitters beneath you, warm lights, soft music, laughter spilling from open windows. But for the first time, something in Paris feels distant, as though you're standing just outside its dream. When you reach your building, the hallways feel narrower than usual, shadows stretching long and thin against the peeling wallpaper. You climb the stairs with a weariness that settles deep into your bones. The craving has returned sharply now, twisting inside you like a whispered promise you're trying desperately not to hear. Your room greets you with stillness. The sketches on the floor look disordered, restless, a reflection of your own unsteady heart. You step inside and close the door gently, leaning your back against it as if the wood could protect you from yourself. The air feels thick. Heavy. Your hands tremble. You don't want it. But you do. Both truths sit inside you like two opposing tides. You open the drawer. The vial is still there, half full, its amber glows soft under the candlelight, as if waiting for you. You stare at it for a long moment, breath shallow. Clara's courage flickers inside your memory like a candle, but your craving roars louder than any flame. You pace the room. Back and forth. Back and forth. The violinist outside plays a drifting melody that floats through the open window, and for a moment, it soothes you, a reminder of the city's beauty, its heartbeat, its promise. But then another sound slips through the thin walls, a muffled sob. A woman crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, as though she's trying not to let the world hear her break. It's the neighbor, the young dancer who lives next door, the one who always laughs too brightly and moves like her bones are made of music. You press your ear gently to the wall. Her sobs deepen, a soft collapse of breath. And underneath it, faint but unmistakable, a clatter of glass. A vial. Your heart tightens painfully. Suddenly, the world becomes crystal clear. This isn't romance. This isn't art. This isn't a muse blessing the streets of Paris. It's a quiet storm sweeping through bedrooms, studios, cafes, bodies. It's breaking people you thought were unbreakable. You knock gently on her door. No answer. You knock again. Elise. Still nothing. Fear claws at your chest. You push the door open, it isn't locked, and the sight inside cuts through you like cold water. Elise lies slumped beside her bed, her hand limp, her eyes half open but unfocused. The vial is on the floor, glinting faintly under the lamp. You rush to her, shaking her gently, calling her name again and again until her breath returns in shallow gasps. Her fingers clutch weakly at your wrist, as if apologizing, as if pleading. Her lips tremble with words that never come. In that moment, with her fragile heartbeat pulsing beneath your hand, something inside you shatters quietly, like Clara's vial on the hill. The illusion breaks. The glamour dissolves. The silent fairy is no muse. No friend. No escape. It is a thief. A slow, sweet thief stealing the city one dreamer at a time. As you cradle Elise's shaking shoulders, the candle flickers in your room, your own vial still glowing softly like a temptation waiting to be chosen. But tonight, its glow feels different, sinister, hollow, a small amber lie. And for the first time since waking in this life, you see the path ahead with painful clarity. If you don't turn away soon, you will not survive the city that once felt like a miracle. The morning creeps in quietly, as if afraid to disturb the fragile balance inside your small Montmartre room. You sit beside Elise's bed, your fingers loosely holding her pulse, feeling the faint rise and fall of her breathing. She sleeps now, shallow, uneven, but alive. The soft gray light of dawn settles over her fragile frame, making her look younger, almost childlike, her eyelashes trembling with each breath she fights to hold on to. You stayed awake all night. Not because the city demanded it, but because fear wouldn't let you close your eyes. Fear of losing her. Fear of losing yourself. The vial on your nightstand feels like a cruel joke now. A tiny glass trap pretending to be freedom. Its amber glow seems duller this morning, like it knows you've seen through its disguise. As Paris wakes, the city's sounds drift upstairs, the clatter of delivery carts, the murmur of vendors setting up their stalls, the distant laughter of children running down the street. Life returns with ordinary beauty, unaware of the fragile battle fought in this quiet room. When Elise stirs, her eyes flutter open, cloudy with exhaustion. She looks at you. Confused at first, then ashamed. You shake your head gently before she can speak. "You're safe," you whisper. "It's all right." Her eyes fill with tears, but she forces a trembling smile. "I didn't mean to. I didn't want," her voice fades into a broken whisper. You take her hand. No judgment. Only understanding. Because you know that place, the place where the world feels too sharp, too heavy, and the fog seems like mercy. As the morning light warms the room, something begins to shift inside you. Not suddenly. Not loudly. But quietly, like a tightly knotted thread beginning to loosen. Clara's courage. Elise's collapse. Your trembling hands. The city's whispered promises. It all weaves together into one undeniable truth. This path doesn't end in art or brilliance or transcendence. It ends in rooms like this, dim, quiet, and suffocating. It ends with vials on the floor and breath you aren't sure will return. You stand slowly, your legs weak from a night without sleep. As you look out the window, Paris stretches beneath you in soft shades of morning gold, beautiful, fragile, still humming with possibilities. For the first time, you don't see a dream or a temptation. You see a future. One that might still belong to you if you reach for it. You move toward your nightstand. The vial sits there, small and silent. Your reflection shimmers faintly on its curved glass. Eyes tired but awake, truly awake, for the first time in weeks. You pick it up. It feels lighter than you expected. You walk to the window. The city exhales beneath you. You don't throw it yet. But you hold it like something you're almost ready to let go of. Almost. Not yet. But soon. In that small moment, the dawn feels different. It feels like a beginning. By afternoon, the sunlight spills into your room in long, golden stripes, warming the wooden floorboards and brushing softly against Elise as she sleeps. Her breathing has steadied, her cheeks hold a faint touch of color again, and the fear that clung to your chest all night begins to loosen its grip. The world looks softer, not because of the haze, but because clarity, though painful, has its own kind of peace. You slip quietly out of the room and step into the hallway. The air smells faintly of old stone and lavender from Madame Rue's apartment downstairs. Each step feels gentle, careful, like you're walking through the fragile shell of a broken night. When you reach the street, Paris greets you with its usual symphony, the clatter of coffee cups, the distant ring of a bicycle bell, the murmurs of lovers leaning close beneath shared umbrellas. But today, something is different. The city isn't calling you deeper into its silver shadows. It's giving you space. Breathing room. A chance. You walk toward the market square, where a small band plays soft jazz beneath a striped awning. A young boy tosses crumbs to pigeons, laughing each time they flutter upward like startled gray confetti. An elderly man sells books from a wooden cart, their pages smelling of dust and forgotten hands. The world feels real again, textured, imperfect, alive. A familiar voice calls your name. You turn to see Matthew, brushes tucked into the pocket of his paint-stained coat. His eyes study your face for a long moment, and for the first time in days, you don't look away. He nods, understanding everything without a single word. "You want to paint today?" he asks softly. You hesitate, and then you nod. Not because the craving is gone, it isn't, but because something inside you has shifted. You no longer want to escape the world. You want to return to it. Even if it hurts. Even if it trembles. Even if each step forward feels as delicate as glass. The studio space he shares with two other painters is tucked behind a bakery, its windows foggy with the warmth of rising dough. Inside, the air smells of turpentine and fresh bread, an oddly comforting mixture. Canvases lean against every wall, some vibrant and wild, others quiet and half-finished. You sit beside Matthew, and for the first time in a long while, you lift a brush not to chase the perfect feeling, but to follow your own trembling hand. You paint slowly, uneven strokes, imperfect shapes, color that refuses to obey. But it's yours. All of it is yours. Matthew glances over your shoulder and smiles faintly. "It doesn't have to be beautiful," he murmurs. "It just has to be honest." And in that moment, honesty feels like its own kind of healing. You leave the studio at dusk, your fingers stained with blue and gold. The craving still lingers in your bloodstream like a ghost, but today, you didn't bow to it. You stood. You painted. You lived. Even in small ways. Even in trembling ones. For the first time since waking in this life, the future feels fragile, but possible. And possibility is enough to carry you through the night. The next few days move gently, like pages turning in a book you once feared to read. Paris begins to feel different beneath your feet, not a trap, not a storm, but a living thing with its own slow heartbeat. You walk through its streets as though rediscovering them for the first time, the baker dusting flour from his sleeves at dawn, the seamstress stitching hems by her open window, the lovers who kiss as if time has forgiven them. You start noticing the small things again, the warm scent of roasted chestnuts drifting from a vendor's cart, the way the Seine glows silver when clouds move across the sun, the faint laughter of children chasing each other near the carousel. None of these things feel distant anymore. They touch you, lightly, like fingertips brushing your arm. You still feel the pull of the viol, some afternoons more than you'd like to admit. It whispers in your blood when you're tired, when the world becomes too bright or too loud, when old doubts come creeping back. But each time, you remind yourself of Elise's pale face on the floor, of Clara's trembling courage, of your own hands gripping that window frame at dawn. Every day you resist is a stitch closing an invisible wound. Every breath you take without the haze is a quiet victory. One evening, you walk to the riverbank alone. The lamps along the Seine flicker like soft golden fireflies, their reflections trembling in the water. A saxophonist plays under the bridge, the melody slow and aching, drifting across the river like a sigh. You sit on the cold stone edge and watch Paris shimmer. The same city that nearly swallowed you whole. The same city teaching you to rise again. As the music warms the night air, you realize something. Close your eyes. For the first time, your breath feels easy. The room feels safe. Your heart feels steady. Tomorrow will not be perfect, it never is. But tomorrow will be real. You will paint. You will walk. You will feel. You will live. In the quiet, Paris holds you gently, like a city that wants to see you rise, not fall. A city that once tempted you into its velvet shadows but now guides you back to its soft, golden light. And as you lie down, letting the calm of the night settle over your skin, you realize something simple and beautiful. You survived the dream that nearly consumed you. And now, you're finally waking up. Not lost, not broken. But whole. Hello guys, if you're still with me, take a deep breath. Let the story melt into the quiet around you. If you enjoyed this journey through Paris in the 1920s, consider supporting the channel. Subscribe, leave a gentle comment, or share this with someone who loves history told softly. Sleep well tonight. And let the past carry you gently into dreams.